Hello and welcome to Crimes of the Heart Tarot. I'm Miss Vicki, and I'm going to use the tarot to see if we can gain more insight into unsolved mysteries, deaths, and disappearances. Let's get started. Welcome. Today I want to do a reading about BRYAN KOHBERGER, his relationship to BRENT KOPACKA. Did they know each other? Were they friends? There's some rumors going around that BRENT KOPACKA sold BRYAN KOHBERGER the K-bar knife that was allegedly used to kill the Idaho 4 on November 13th of 2022. Now I don't know why this person, it's someone on YouTube, I guess, that does some kind of criminal investigation. I haven't seen his video, but apparently BRYAN KOHBERGER and BRENT KOPACKA live very close to each other in different apartments. Now, Brent was killed by a SWAT team December 14th, and this was just, I think, about, what was it? It was November 13th. The Idaho 4 were killed. I think that was the night they were murdered. And he was killed by a SWAT team just a month later. Now, the background on BRENT KOPACKA is that he was a U.S. Army vet. He'd had a traumatic brain injury when he was serving in Afghanistan. And he'd had PTSD. He had a lot of mental problems, but he was living in the apartment with roommates. And police were called to Brent's apartment because he had barricaded himself in his apartment and threatened to kill his roommates. When SWAT arrived, Brent started shooting at them. And they returned fire, and Brent was killed. Now, there isn't much else about Brent on the internet, but it is interesting that when BRYAN KOHBERGER and his father were driving home, they were stopped by the police because apparently BRYAN had been under surveillance. They stopped him for speeding, something like that. And BRYAN mentioned the BRENT KOPACKA killing, which had just occurred the day before. Now, some people are saying that they knew each other, that Brent had sold BRYAN the K-bar knife. Now, they haven't found the knife, but they did find the sheath on the bed of the murder victims. And the coroners determined that it was a K-bar type knife that murdered them, that did the damage. And apparently the sheath was a K-bar type sheath. So I want to do a reading and see if, did BRENT KOPACKA have anything to do with the Idaho 4? Did he have any kind of a relationship with BRYAN? Did they just casually know each other? Some people are saying that BRYAN's defense team is going to try and blame Brent for the murders. I don't think there's any evidence. I'm just going to pull a few cards. I'm using the Edgar Allan Poe deck. This is a very dark reading, and this is all alleged. This is just my interpretation of the cards. This is all for entertainment only. This is my reading of what I'm seeing on the cards. And it's all alleged. I don't know these people. I don't know anything about the evidence. But I want to do a reading and see, to see what comes up with BRENT KOPACKA. KOPACKA, I think that's how you say it. Okay, we've got the Eight of Cups. Now, Eight of Cups is about working towards something. And this card, this is a dark deck. It shows a man walking along a moonlit path, kind of walking away from something. He's built something, and it's time to move on. Then we have the Three of Wands. All right, the Three of Wands is waiting for something to come to you, something you sent out, some work you've done, something to come back. Now, I really don't know a lot about Brent. All I know is what I read online. But I don't know if we can do this with the cards. We've got the Five of Cups. This is another card showing walking away from a very sad situation. Apparently Brent was really, really in the throes of PTSD. He had a lot of problems. He was living in an apartment with roommates. He was 36 years old. He was very young when he was in Afghanistan. Excuse me. Then we have the Six of Cups. This is wishing things were like they used to be. This could be Brent wishing he'd never gone to Afghanistan, wishing he hadn't been injured, his family wishing that. I'm sure they all wish that. But I don't see him doing any harm to anyone. We have the Ace of Wands. The Ace of Wands is the start of fire. This shows a book, several books with letters being written, pens laying around. Wands are energy. They're the start of something new. The Queen of Pentacles. The Queen of Pentacles is about health. This is a woman, usually an older woman. It's not the Idaho 4. I'm calling them that because that's the easiest way to say who they were. This is about an older woman. Pentacles is money, Pentacles is health. I don't know if he was seeing anyone for his condition, Brent. And I don't know if he was involved with Bryan at all. I don't think he went to any of Bryan's classes. Then we have the King of Cups. All right, the King of Cups is an older man, but it's a powerful man. This shows a group at a table, but cups are love, emotion, feelings like that. So we have an older man and an older woman, but we don't have younger people. Not yet. And we've got the Magician. The Magician is making things happen. This is someone, this is upright. This is someone who has everything they need to make something happen, manifest something. This could be Bryan. I don't think Brent was manifesting a whole lot of things. I think he was dealing with his mental problems. And the Magician isn't about fantasy. It's not dreams or anything like that. It's positive things you have at your disposal to make your life better, to do whatever. Then we have the High Priestess. The High Priestess is about secrets. This is about going within, dealing with your own intuition. I get the feeling that this was Brent, that he was trying to fight these problems. And there were two people. This could be his parents. This could be his parent, his mother. This could be, I don't know if this is his mother and father. This picture in this card, these are strange cards, shows a man sitting at a table with a bunch of other people, and he almost looks like a high priestess to me, a voodoo man, a voodoo chief or something. I think this was Brent's doctor. I think he was seeing a doctor. And he had a lot of dark things going on inside of him. Obviously, PTSD is nothing to joke about. And he'd been dealing with this brain injury for 16 years. So he was in Afghanistan when he was only 20. And he was injured, had been injured all that time. I don't really know what he was doing. He was in an apartment in an area where the college was. I don't know if this, I get the feeling this card represents a doctor of emotion, psychiatrist, a doctor of emotions, and there's a lot of other people. I think he was a patient somewhere, but I don't think he was a patient that had to reside. I think he just visited, but this also could be his illusions. He saw lots of, I don't know what you'd call them, delusions, fantasies. I don't know what kind of drugs he was on. He was on something. Caused him problems. And the last card over here is the Eight of Pentacles. Eight of Pentacles is working. That's a working card. This is almost, this was in reverse. So this is someone working. This is, I think this is Bryan's defense team. I get the feeling this is a lawyer. And I think they're trying to, well, I could be wrong about this. I think they're trying to bring Brent into this because he's deceased. There's not much you can say about him. He can't defend himself. And I don't know if there's any evidence in his apartment after he was killed by the SWAT team, but I think the defense is trying to bring something like that up. Now, I'll pull a few more cards for Brent. I don't see any cards that show murder. I see delusion, I see fantasies, I see dealing with what looks like a witch doctor, which is what maybe he was thinking his doctor was. I don't see murder. He did shoot at the police when they came. Gosh, I don't know what he was going through. He had some kind of breakdown. This card really makes me think he had a mental breakdown of some kind. He'd been dealing with a lot of problems for a long time. And I also think this represents being on some kind of medication that wasn't helping him or that he didn't want to take. There's something going on with doctors. Doctors, he looked at the doctor as a, almost like a voodoo practitioner. That's what I'm getting. Then we have the Five of Swords. The Five of Swords is someone who is in pieces in this card. This is somebody who has been, this is a military man that sees himself in pieces. And there's also knives in this. This is really interesting. This, excuse me, this is how Brent saw himself. And this was in the reverse. This came up in the reverse. I think he was dealing with a lot of problems. He did have weapons. Apparently, I mean, he shot at the police. I don't know that someone that had that kind of a situation going on could get a weapon. But I'm seeing knives. And but I'm not seeing him cutting up other people. I'm seeing himself in pieces. And he felt terribly taken advantage of by what had happened to him in Afghanistan and the way he was treated and his mental problems. All right, then we have the Seven of Wands. The Seven of Wands, this is someone who basically is defending himself. This is another military man. There's a ghoul standing behind him. I think Brent was having a really hard time keeping in touch with reality, but he was in an apartment, and I don't know if he was going to school or not. He was 36. I don't know what else is around that area. I know the college is right there. He was fighting against the world, defending himself. And then we have the Knight of Swords. There's another knife there. The Knight of Swords and a shovel with blood on it. These are pretty gruesome cards. All right, the Knight of Swords is another military man. This is not a young man, but not an old man. This is an older person, maybe in his 30s, which Brent was 36. And he's got a knife. He's trying to dig the truth out of his brain. He's trying to deal with all these things. I don't see any of the cards showing that he did any crimes against anyone. All of these cards show he was damaged. He was coping with life. He was coping with his demons. He wished things were like they used to be. His parents did too. I think he had times when he was lucid and he knew how badly damaged he was. But I see any kind of anger, I see it inflicted toward himself more than anything else. Now, he did shoot at the SWAT officers, but he didn't kill any of them or shoot any of them. I think he shot through the door and then they killed him. And he has no record of ever doing anything that I know of to anyone. This is all about inflicting, the pain is inflicted on himself, is what I'm getting. There are a lot of knives. He may have had weapons. If he had a gun, he got it from somewhere. I mean, 36 years old, if he was ex-military, I don't know what Utah's laws are about buying weapons. He may have been legally bought it. He did have knives, though. He had knives. I see a lot of knives in this reading. But I don't see him doing anything to anyone. I see him coping with himself, trying to kill the demons inside of him with these knives. He almost had them for protection, I think. I'm getting that really strong, too. Protection. He felt under attack. He knew things weren't right in his life. I don't see it. He may have known Bryan. Bryan was there for quite a while, I think, on and off when he was teaching and going to school. And they may have had an interest in military weapons. But I don't, and he may have sold Bryan the knife. That could very well be true. But I don't see Brent doing anything toward any students. I see no people in that range. I think he loved his mother. His mother was very caring. And his doctor, I think this is a psychiatrist. He looked at him as a witch doctor with all these other patients that he probably came across when he was in therapy. But I see Brent just dealing with himself, dealing with his problems. I think something happened. He finally reached a breaking point. I don't believe there's any evidence that he did those murders. They're trying to tie, because of the time frame, the Idaho Four were killed November 13th. And Brent had his breakdown about a month after that. The cards don't show him dealing with anyone but himself and his doctor and his mother. So they would have to have evidence, strong evidence. that he did something like that. I think I'm going to close the circle. I don't see him doing the murders. I see him having major problems, but not the murders. So thank you for watching, and we'll see you next time. Bye.